Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new show here on It's a Wonderful Podcast, one of our TV-based shows here on a Monday, of course. We're diving into the world of Stephen King. Now, it's something a little bit different. It's a horror-based show. We haven't done a horror-based TV show on Morgan Hasn't Seen TV, or indeed on Jeannine Hasn't Seen TV, although obviously this now alternates with diving into Doctor Who, and every so often Doctor Who likes to get a bit horror, doesn't it? But certainly not at this consistent level that we'll be dealing with for the next little month or so. Obviously, this is not a particularly long series of television. There is one season of this particular show. There is 8 episodes of this particular show. So there will only, in fact, be 4 episodes of this show. This is investigating it. Welcome to Derry. And, I mean, Stephen King, obviously, Stephen King's world, obviously, is incredibly beloved, incredibly well-known, well-respected, full of little intricacies of terror and fear. And there's a certain distinct brand of Stephen King horror as well, isn't there, really, that sets him, has always set him aside. I mean, for the last, 50 years-ish now.
Yeah. And if you look at his
writing.
and if you look at his kind of log of book releases, he's literally released maybe at least one book every year for the past several decades. It's insane.
It's mad.
The ideas that he can just conjure into a book year after year. It's insane. And all of these books are kind of interconnected. So this show plays around with that a lot, which I think is fun.
Yeah. But obviously it's fundamentally based on the lore of one of the most famous Stephen King books, certainly one of the most intimidating Stephen King books, I think, as well, given its length and thickness. I mean, a standard copy of it is about 1,300 pages, I think, or something like that.
Something crazy like that.
Is a monster.
And the films were also really well received. I think, the mini series that they did with Tim Curry was also, very well received as well. So a very kind of popular piece of work amongst what he's done. So no surprise that there's now a show here kind of developing all the things that were in that story.
No, definitely. And it does obviously come within the same sort of interpretation world of those Andy Muschietti movies. This is an Andy Muschietti sort of penned and show ran series as well. So we're taking all of what he brought to the world of it and the it entity in the 2017 and 19 movies, I want to say they were released. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, or Part 1, Part 2, whatever you want to refer to them as. But we go back into the 27-year sort of moments in the it entity's existence. And we have to call it the it entity, or it as well. We can't just say Pennywise, because it isn't always Pennywise. It just likes being Pennywise a lot.
Yes, which is something fun we'll actually explore in this season. So I'm excited for you to kind of get to see that connection and how that came to be. That will be revealed in this series. Yeah.
I'm not sure I actually know why it takes the form of Pennywise so often, apart from obviously being terrifying evil clown.
Yes, but also something that will kind of lure kids, a clown kids. And there is a reason. We do kind of explore why that entity is drawn to that form. So,
okay. I mean, I think we're appropriately titled Investigating It. Welcome to Derry as well, given that the sort of opening of this series, these 2 episodes we are talking about today, are kind of focused on a certain level of mystery, a certain level of investigation into the darkness of this particular entity, the military investigation into the darkness of this particular entity that nobody really is sure what it is. It is just, it has been sensed by a certain character, and this certain character is kind of leading this excavation almost into uncovering the root of this darkness to be weaponized. Essentially, it seems like it's going to be weaponized, or the US military at this time wants to weaponize it. Obviously, we are set in the early 60s. At this particular point as well. 27 years, of course, before the events of the 2017 movie. Which was in the sort of mid-late 80s.
Yeah.
It has to hibernate for 27 years. This is clear.
Yeah.
This is known. Yeah. You know, we only see it turn up in 27-year interludes. And I believe the other seasons of this show that are to come will be continuing to go back in time, 27 years each time. And we will keep going back and back and back until I guess, the supposed beginning of the It entity. I don't know if that's ever made clear in Stephen King's actual work, or is it just going to be a bit of a
kind of his interpretation? Yeah, I think they've established it's going to be 3 seasons. So we're going to go back. Season 2 is going to go back another 27 years to events that we have heard about, in the It films, and I think probably in the book as well. And then another 27 years will be the 3rd season. So super early, and all will be kind of, highlighting a big kind of It event that came about when he was done with his hibernation. So I think that's kind of a cool way to do it, that we're going back and back and back. And there's a lot of fun kind of little Easter eggs to look for, as well as I mentioned. Seems like a lot of his novels, if not all of them, are a part kind of a loose kind of universe. So in this show, you'll hear mentions of Shawshank. We'll get characters that are more known from other stories and things like that. So it'll be a fun little thing to kind of keep an eye out for, along with some relatives of characters that we've met in the It films. So I love that there's this kind of care to build on that connectivity, while also adapting kind of the dense aspects of Stephen King's novel into a kind of a show format with the blessing of Stephen King. So feeling like it's like an approved in tandem kind of thing. They do a lot of fun stuff and explore a lot of fun stuff with this show. So I'm excited to have you watch it for the first time, because I really enjoyed it. My first watch through. So
I think the blessing angle is kind of important with somebody like Stephen King as well. I think we're all quite aware that a certain very notable movie based on Stephen King's work did not in any way have Stephen King's blessing, yet is arguably considered the best thing ever to be, adapted from a King work. And there's that argument people can have about The Shining there, and continue to have all these years later, even now. My sort of relationship with King isn't particularly deep, admittedly, for somebody that that's a massive horror fan, always been a massive horror fan. I've never overly, kind of delved into his work, his books, or anything like that. I think there is an intimidation factor about them. Yes, there are some shorter ones. Obviously, yes, there are some ones I feel I could quite easily read, but because, I don't know, perhaps because of the amount of them, perhaps because they are, as we've already said, all really kind of part of an interconnected world. It feels like you would read one and you would kind of feel obliged to read an awful lot of them to get a full grasp of the whole, his whole idea of fear, his whole idea of how fear persists, how it manifests, how it kind of builds up within people. And there's an awful lot of supernatural as well about Stephen King's work, but there can be quite grounded horror as well, quite grounded sort of evil, I suppose, in King's work. It doesn't always have to be large scale.
I mean, think horror. Misery probably. I think it's still to this day the only Stephen King adaptation that's won an Academy Award. So,
well, I mean, Misery is a great movie. I would say I'm definitely more familiar with movie adaptations of Stephen King
than his actual
his actual works, which has always felt like a bit of a blind spot for me. And I remember when it came out, these movies, not the Tim Curry miniseries that I was always well aware of, but still to this day have never actually seen. But I remember when the It movies were coming out, people were very excited.
And they did really well.
They did very very well, incredibly well. I think it became arguably the highest grossing quote unquote horror movie of all time, or something like that. It was something like very very impressive financially that it did. However, I did always feel about those particular It movies that there was a reason it became the highest grossing horror movie of all time, and it just didn't go far enough. It didn't get nasty enough for my liking. It was all this sort of PG-13, as you would call it, level horror. And do we love a PG-13 level horror? I don't think horror should ever be PG-13. I think it should either be like family-based horror and you're just being a bit spooky and Halloween, or you're going all out and actually trying to be, very intense or whatever.
Well, I'm curious to see if you think this show does that so far. So,
I mean, as a statement, we'll obviously get into the episodes themselves specifically very shortly here. But as an overall feeling, I'm getting a level of maturity from this show that I don't think I felt was present necessarily in the movies. And I think that's a great thing. Maybe because it feels like we're dealing with some more adult characters as opposed to just the kids that we definitely were dealing with, obviously, in chapter 1. And it's just those people grown up in it chapter 2.
So but adult characters but adult characters that aren't kind of in this weird kind of dark blind blind to the evils of the world. Of course, we see those kinds of adults, but we're also getting fully functioning adults who are aware of what's happening or aware that something's wrong or coming into this space and have some agency. So,
And I don't know, there's also, I think, something quite mature about the kids in this particular series. Kind of already, I feel that. Now, the It entity likes to go after somewhat broken, damaged children, somewhat lost children mentally, because the It entity likes to feed on fear. This is what it does. So it goes for the more vulnerable people, the more vulnerable children, because it also needs a certain level of imagination, I think, to feast upon, or whatever it may be, and children give it that. So you get that same sense that you got, obviously, in the movies. But I just feel like it's being, or the issues that the kids are going through are being treated a bit more gently and a bit more with sort of respect. Whether this is simply the fact that this story might work better, or this kind of idea might work better given the more time that a series of television has than
to
a movie
develop
or
something.
or two movies, you know. because this is a massive book, obviously, and I know obviously this isn't a straight adaptation of the book in any way, but it's taking that idea that obviously needed 1,300 pages of a book to for King to flesh out fully or as entirely as he wanted to. And it feels more appropriate, I think, to put those large ideas that are all obviously going to have so many characters going back and forth and connecting here, there, and everywhere with each other, as well as this series being slightly interconnected with other King works as well. You need the level of time. And what I like so far in these first 2 episodes is it is taking its time to get where it needs to go. And it is giving it us, it is fleshing things out. It is rounding these characters out. It's not just throwing us into, oh, look, this kid's a loser death. You know, it's even even the kids that die fairly quickly, you know,
which is a kind of I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that kind of instant surprise, because there's a kind of setup and establishment that immediately kind of gets pulled away.
Which I didn't mind because I think it worked. I think I got enough out of these, and sometimes in this kind of thing, and I feel this same way with Stranger Things as well, and it's all feeling this kind of same, maybe it's the It movie, you know, from 2017 and Stranger Things, 80s set, kids in the 80s, supernatural kind of situation. Finn Wolfhard being the consistent there, I suppose. Just something a little bit annoying. I don't know. It's unspoken in my mind. I just get a little bit annoyed. And, oh my God, why are you acting like that? And I just feel like I kind of get why these kids are acting the way they are in this particular series. I don't know if, you know, they might just be better actors. They might genuinely just be better actors. But I kind of, I liked it. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe the It movie just felt a bit too much like Stranger Things for me. And, you know, I've got a funny relationship.
Yes.
And
that's fair.
To say that, to explain that a little bit, I just mean it's me being annoying, I suppose. And because I still haven't watched the final of Stranger Things, by the way. I still have not watched the final season of Stranger Things, and I don't want to. I've watched the rest of them. I've watched all the rest of them, and I just don't care enough to watch it.
Oh my gosh.
I think it's got something. I think it's got something to do with the fact that it was everyone who didn't watch movies or TV any other time. It was all their favorite show. And there's something that has to be quite bland about a television show for it to be everybody's television's favorite show.
Finally,
do you know what I mean? Like, why are you not watching other television but you're watching this? Don't give me the argument. But don't give me the argument that, oh well, this is better than everything else, so everybody's watching it. No, it's more accessible than everything else. It's more it is for everybody than everything else.
I get how after that first season, it could feel not as special or as lightning in a bottle anymore, because everybody's talking about it, everybody's excited about it, and people who don't really watch TV or binge things are all about it.
Like, you literally would find people that didn't watch anything else. These people that don't watch movies, these people that don't watch TV, but they would watch that. And there's something odd about that I can't quite grasp my head around. But there's just something a bit strange about actually.
Like I had an old coworker who was like that, who very much, like, you know, I would make references to The Office or other like popular shows, and they would really know what I was talking about. But then would talk about, oh, I think this week me and my family are gonna sit down and finally watch Stranger Things. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's my, what I can be like as well, and needing to kind
Yes.
of watch what a lot of other people aren't necessarily watching. But
I mean, this is why I started this show, because like, Morgan doesn't want to do something. Morgan doesn't want to be on board with what everyone else is on board with. Let's make a show and make him.
I mean, kind of to a degree, but the shows we've done on this show, let's take Ted Lasso for a great example there.
Yeah.
Was a show I definitely would have watched, I think, and a show I think I actively was going to watch. It was simply the fact I just didn't have Apple TV. So I just didn't. It was a streamer that I didn't really see the point in getting at that certain time. When I got it, obviously, I actually realized the great stuff that is on Apple TV.
Oh,
so
yes.
I've
Severance,
continued to kind of go back to it every now and again.
great.
Severance, most clearly for me, I think.
Yeah.
Whenever a new season of an Apple TV thing comes out, and now I finally actually get the advertisements for that. But Apple just seemed really bad with advertising, so I didn't really know what was on there. You kind of have to know. Anyway, we're tangentially going.
Yes,
we have to focus in on
these episodes.
Welcome to Derry.
On our investigation.
Our investigation, alongside the Air Force's investigation into the It entity that begins, Jeannine, in episode 1. The Pilot, which is a good title because it's the pilot of the show, and also it's about a pilot.
We have a pilot. Yes. So a little bit of a synopsis here. 4 months after their classmate's sudden disappearance, Teddy, Phil, Lily, and Ronnie vow to figure out why so many kids have gone missing in Derry and why they've each been experiencing strange phenomena. Meanwhile, Major Leroy Hanlon arrives at Derry Air Force Base, where he navigates a chilly reception from some of his fellow airmen.
Well, from one notable fellow airman, really.
Yes.
Isn't it? And I don't think we could have avoided this particular aspect of this time in US history. We need to sort of be dealing with this sort of stuff. It's going to be the real world horror as mixed with the old
with the kind of the creepy horror of just Derry and the residents, because I did watch breakdowns on these episodes after they aired. New Rock Stars is always great about breaking down shows and movies and things, so I love to kind of go to their breakdowns after I've watched an episode, and they do talk about kind of the Derry, like welcome to Derry sign, and there is kind of like a seal on it, like for some white pride organization. So
I mean, well, Derry as a town is very obviously, this is geographically and factually wrong, but it feels like Middle America, doesn't it? It's small town Middle America. It's obviously in Maine. I know, calm down. It's all the way up there in the northeast. I get it. Right?
Yes.
But it feels like every other small American town that's just a bit insular and a bit of itself. People have lived there for generations and generations and generations and never leave.
And things don't change much.
Things don't change much.
Which is why there's this whole kind of
live
protest.
And breathe Derry.
Yes, which is why there's this whole protest of the Paul Bunyan statue that they're erecting in town as well. No change. It's an eyesore and that kind of thing. So
I mean, this is a bit of an eyesore. I don't disagree with the people who don't want this quite garish looking statue of a. I mean, what Paul Bunyan, is he supposed to be some sort of timberman, lumberjack kind of figure?
It's like a tall tale kind of thing. I don't know if you like Johnny Appleseed and stuff like
American folklore kind of situation.
John Henry and all this kind of thing, and that whole kind of thing. So just seeing kind of that seal for this like white kind of group on the town seal when you're going into the place, says kind of everything you need to know. So yeah, we are going to get a little bit of that, like, because this season is kind of geared around the black spot incident, which is something that happened at a black club in town. So
okay,
yeah,
there is a heavy
racial aspects are going to
element.
play, yes, a lot into this season for sure.
And therefore, I suppose the it entity comes in and plays on those itself, doesn't it?
Yes,
Plays
because
on
that's what it
the fear
does.
that the Hanlons and Dick Halloran, who's in the show as well.
Yeah.
Dick Halloran. We like Dick Halloran, even though he's not being played by Scatman Crothers here, or indeed by Carl Lumley, as he was played in Doctor Sleep.
Or I learned, because I didn't watch Stephen King's version of The Shining. I believe in that version.
Oh no, I've not seen that one.
Yeah, he did it. He was not, of course, as you mentioned, not happy with the Kubrick version. So yes, so he did his own TV version, and I believe Melvin Van Peebles plays Dick Halloran in that version. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, I learned that in the New Rockstars breakdown. They were talking about kind of all these signs, like business signs, like Melvin's Pickles, which Pickles plays a lot into this. And so he was wondering, when he was doing kind of the breakdown, he was wondering if that was an allusion to or nod to Melvin Van Peebles playing Dick Halloran. So, and I was like, Melvin Van Peebles played Dick Halloran.
Yes, fun casting, I suppose. But we get a little bit more fleshing out of Dick Halloran as a character in this second episode, don't we? But I feel he's obviously going to be absolutely central to everything that's going on here. And he's somebody that obviously doesn't appear in It. So he's, a character from The Shining. So his shine is what the military are using.
You're using, so they're aware. Yeah.
Yeah, to figure out where the It entity is. Because he can sense it. And they're trying to go on. They're doing this big dig, this big sort of archaeological excavation sort of situation, and trying to unearth the entity. And we see Dick and Hanlon and a couple of other people in the second episode. Like, Dick has these special privileges, doesn't he, where he's just kind of allowed to do whatever he wants because it's that vital.
He's kind of a special aspect of their mission. But yes, with Leroy, we see him kind of get tested. He gets attacked by some masked men in his barracks. We do kind of learn what that's about in the next episode. But he handles the situation very well. He holds his own. He doesn't seem to get scared. And all of that is very important to what they're looking for in this pilot. So that's kind of the most we get from the military aspect in this episode. We're more focused on the kids. So cold open, we open on the Music Man, and we pan out to this little boy. We see kind of bruises on his face. He's sucking on a pacifier, but clearly he's like 10, 11 years old. And one of the ushers catches him and says, hey, you didn't pay, come here. And he runs away. And this is where we meet Ronnie. She is a young girl about his age working behind the counter. She sees him hide behind a theater kind of display, and her father is the projectionist. And the usher's kind of making a big deal about this kid, sneaking in here several times. Ronnie covers for him and says he went the opposite direction. And then the kid runs out of there. So just kind of the theme already up top with the Music Man, kind of this flamboyant, excitable figure, kind of swindling, tricking these people, very much kind of, alluding to, I think, Pennywise. So I like kind of that idea. And also how it comes back at the end of the episode and how they were able to kind of, intercut it and make it look all kind of seamless while using kind of still actual footage from the movie. I think worked really well. I really liked how they were able to do that. So what did you think of the kind of this cold open, and before we kind of get into the horror aspects of it?
And look, it's, as I said, it's paced very interestingly because what this show is also clearly doing, I know we're being quite generalist in this episode. I feel like it's the start, it's the first episode.
Yeah, so we're just kind of
It's an
loosey-goosey.
overall aspect.
Yeah.
The specifics, I think, will come later on. And yes, we're going to talk about some specifics of these episodes, sure. But it's just a very intriguing opening, a very slowly intriguing opening. The pacing is, for me, the best part of this show so far. I think it is just delicately paced very, very well. And this opening steadily just makes you more and more uncomfortable with this kid's, this little kid's situation. You don't really know who he is. You don't really know why he's doing what he's doing, but he's on his own. And that's the most important part.
Yes, we're getting little cues.
He's fearful.
He looks a little beaten.
He looks completely
abused.
He's a broken soul, essentially.
Yes,
so
he has his pacifier as like a coping kind of thing. Yeah. So there's things to read about, the trouble this kid is in. So just like you said, perfect kind of food for Pennywise.
And that's constant within this show. I think we don't just get massive loads of exposition dumps all at once, or in it is very, very gradual in how it tells you information, how it gives the information to you, how it shows you what's going on and who these people are, who these kids are, most importantly, I suppose. But I mean, the poor kid doesn't last long because he kind of hitches a ride with this seemingly lovely family who are supposedly traveling to the town that he wants to go to.
Yeah, I think Portland, and he says anywhere but Derry, like don't take me back to Derry. And they're like, oh yeah, no, we're headed to Portland. And
but where are these people going? They're going to Derry.
Yes, a pregnant mother, a father, son in the back who, the mother's so proud that he can spell all of these words. So he starts spelling kind of innocent, nice words at first. The older sister who's kind of mean to the little brother. And then, things gradually get kind of creepy and weird. And then you're realizing this is the sense of humor of Pennywise kind of starting to grow and fester in this situation. It seems kind of fine at first.
They start requesting the sort of brother character to spell darker words, don't they?
Yeah. And cadaver and
cadaver.
Yes.
Like this.
Yes. And the sister, she pulls out, a little snack, and it's some liver, and she just sticks her hand like into the raw liver and sticks it in the little boy's face, and he starts getting creeped out. And as the kid's spelling, he's starting to shout louder and louder, and things just progressively get creepy. And he's like asking to get out, let me out, stop the car, and they're not stopping. And he sees they're going back to Derry, and he kicks the back of the mother's chair, and then she starts to go into labor. And that whole scene, like, I was surprised how graphic they got with this birthing scene.
It's very graphic, which again is kind of, I'm there going, yes, good, be graphic, because this is what makes it not for children or not for 12-year-olds. I don't want this show to be for 12-year-olds. Something like this shouldn't be for 12-year-olds. I know it's maybe about 12-year-olds, but it shouldn't be for 12-year-olds. It's too nasty. So absolutely, to open like that with this awful birthing, creepy, whatever the hell, this
two-headed, one-winged. Yeah, it's like a two-headed, there's a head on the like neck of the baby. This head has eyes, but the eyes of the head are gone. It has like half a wing. It's mutated, and it's like we saw like similar kind of creatures when in It Chapter 2 in the movie, when they're in the Chinese restaurant, and then like all of the things are opening, and it's all these kind of creepy things coming out, and we get awesome like creepy winged like dead bird babies and stuff like that. So I think this is kind of an allusion to that. So she bursts this creepy winged thing that's flying around the car and going crazy, and ultimately, and the family's just, like, happy and smiley, and they're
Oh,
not fazed
laughing
by it at
essentially, yeah.
all. Yes, and then our little boy, we see just the thing fly towards him, and his pacifier just goes flying out the window, so we don't even see what
Yeah.
happened to him, and then we see it land in the sewer, and as we go into the sewer, we get our title card, so,
The
yeah.
sewer, it's always the sewer, isn't it? He loves the
Yes.
sewer, does it. It loves the sewer.
Yes. Yeah.
We always have to we must capitalize it whenever we're talking about this as
Yeah.
well, to make sure that it is the entity and not just the little word that is useful, that is it.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a nasty opening. It's a very, very nasty opening.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was to expect, apologies for the cough. Obviously, I was to expect a certain level of supernatural from
Yeah.
the show as well. Wasn't quite sure how early we were going to get that. Wasn't quite sure
Yeah.
if this was just going to be a bit creepy.
A
Maybe they'll be
build.
stuck
Yeah.
with, yeah, maybe they'll be stuck with smiles on their faces like the movie Smile or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we just get taken to Derry. Here's the title card. Welcome to Derry, and all this kind of stuff. Maybe we were in for that, but no, I liked that it went there, and I liked that in these first 2 episodes we got some really rather nasty and affecting horror set pieces of the it entity feasting on the fear of these kids, kind of one after the other. Also in this, the kind of climax of this first episode is a bunch of them go to the cinema where Ronnie and her father, is the projectionist there. They work there. And the little boy from the beginning kind of appears, Matty, I think his name is, appears on screen. He's also the brother of one of these kids as well.
No, they were all friends. They're all friends of
friends.
his. And so we do see moments of their friendship. So like the girl Lily, she was kind of friendly with him, and he took her to kind of their secret hideout place, this big tower in town, which I think is talked a lot about in the book. And he gave her this charm, like a Cracker Jack charm of a turtle, which plays into something in the book. The turtle is kind of like this good entity that fights against Pennywise's evil, or evil entity. So turtles are always kind of like, to adapt that into this story would have kind of been a weird thing. So the movies kind of have turtles around as kind of like a nod to that. And so it's also kind of here as well. So he gives her this turtle charm. So we see her in present day looking at her turtle charm and flashing back to this moment she had with Maddie. And, they have a nice talk, and he kind of is telling her about how his father hits him and things. And she's talking about, her story, which we learn about the death of her father. She had left like her mood ring or something in the factory where he works. He went back in to get it for her. And then while he was there, he went to check on a piece of machinery. Somebody didn't know that he was checking on it, turns it on, and he gets sucked into the machine and ground up, which is also, I think Stephen King has a book called The Mangler. So it might be a nod to that.
There really is. There's always something. It always has to be a particularly nasty sort of death, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You can't just be like, there's an element to some deaths in Stephen King's works, or the movies, the shows that King has been adapted from. The deaths are somewhat more straightforward. I mean, you think of The Shining. Yes, there's a supernatural element to The Shining, but people that die in The Shining, it's somewhat straightforward deaths.
Yeah.
I mean, Dick Halloran dies in The Shining. He gets axed in the chest.
Yeah.
It's nasty, but it's straightforward. In it, they're always mangled corpses that have gone into machinery.
Yeah.
Or somebody's insides have been pulled out and wrapped around the neck.
Burned alive. And it's just really kind of gruesome stuff. Yeah.
Next level Evil Dead style craziness in terms of how these bodies have been killed.
Exactly. So Lily, I think she feels a lot of guilt because, he went back in for something for her. And now people kind of tease her because, oh, your father got stuck inside the pickle machine. So, he's in every pickle jar in town. So that's kind of a running thing with her.
Horrible.
So she shares that with Maddie.
Which leads to a particularly
Yes.
nasty, and maybe not my favorite of all the horror scenes, the horror set pieces we get in these first 2 episodes, just because I think it was a bit creepy and the effects were a little bit
not the
in
best.
that particular one. I really liked the effects for the most part of the other horror set pieces in these first 2 episodes.
And I think most people kind of agree, like the pickle thing was a fun idea, but it didn't quite look great on the execution. So she is sharing like her story with Maddie. Maddie's sharing the story with her. They're having a bit of a moment. Maddie goes to kiss her. She rejects him, and ultimately 3 days later is when we find him running away, hiding in the theater, and then goes missing. So she feels this kind of guilt, and so then she ends up teaming up with his friends, his 2 friends, one of them being a Urus. So he is presumably the uncle of Stanley Urus, who we meet in it. And which we didn't mention when we were talking about Leroy Hanlon. He is the grandfather of Mike Hanlon, who we do actually see in the film, the one forcing him to put a bolt. Yes, in that sheep's head or whatever it is.
So one of the nerdy loser kids in this show is Mike Hanlon's father.
Yes.
I forgot the name of Will Hanlon.
Will, yes. So we know Will's going to be okay because
Will's going to be okay, sure, but the connectivity is there.
Yes, which is nice. Yeah, so we do get Stanley's uncle, presumably. We see, Stanley's dad, the older brother of this kid. And they're kind of trying to investigate and figure out what's happened to their friend. They've seen some weird things. Lily has seen some weird things. She heard the song from the Music Man playing and saw his fingers kind of coming up the drain and heard his voice.
Lily's possibly at the moment the most interesting kid character.
Yeah,
because I think she's okay to say she's been through the most. Isn't the most respectful thing to say to the other kids who have also been through their own trauma. But I think more focus at the moment is on her and what she's been through and how she with this. She's spent time in an asylum.
Juniper Hill.
Juniper Hill Asylum.
Yeah, so presumably after the incident with her father, she went there for a while, and it was very scary for her. People are still making fun of her. She opens her locker here in this episode, and a jar of pickles fall out. So this is still a thing people are teasing her for. She's also having to deal with her best friend Margie is desperate to kind of be in the popular girl group, so she's constantly kind of ditching Lily to go for this popular girl group and telling her, you got to stop acting weird so that we can get into this cool group kind of thing. So
am I right in saying that Margie is also a connective character into the movie?
Potentially.
That I've heard.
Potentially.
I don't think we've not necessarily found
we will.
out distinctly yet.
Yes. No, but we will find out. And there are some aspects of her that might give it away. To who she could be. But so she's very kind of desperate to be a part of this popular girls group, so she's not being kind of the best friend to Lily. So Lily's kind of alone here. So we set up this kind of group of kids who ultimately end up all having these weird kind of occurrences. I can't remember the Urus kid's name. He starts seeing
find it. Sure.
He starts seeing Maddie's face on his lampshade, which is kind of a dark allusion to things that happen to Jewish people. And so he ends up kind of having a scary experience as well. So they all kind of come together oh, did you experience something weird? Yes, we all experienced something weird. And then they go to Ronnie to kind of ask her, do you know anything about what happened to Maddie? Because I think the last place people saw him was at your movie theater. And she's very much upset because it's her father is taking the blame for this kid going missing, and the cops are asking a lot of questions. And she's like, your friend, is messing with my family and getting my dad in trouble, so go away. And then
Yeah.
she hears them talking about the song that they keep hearing. And Ronnie mentions that she keeps hearing the song too, and they all realize, I think we need to go back to the theater and see what's going on.
Yeah.
And in the
Teddy
movie he saw
Uris, by the way, is
Teddy. Yes. So they go look through old newspapers to kind of see what the newspapers say about Maddie's disappearance. One of the other kids, which I don't remember his name either, he brings along his little sister because no one's there to watch her.
Yeah.
So presumably establishing this is our group of kids that we're going to be following. It's going to be investigating
It would seem so.
Their missing friend this season. And so we go to the theater. Ronnie puts on the Music Man because that's the last thing Maddie saw to see if anything kind of comes up. And sure enough, like the movie's playing as it plays. And then as we pan through the crowd, Maddie is there with the creepy family behind him. And they're like singing along with the Music Man. And Maddie's holding a baby. And they're calling out to him. And they're like, Maddie, come to us. And they're trying to call him out of the screen. He's walking towards them. And then I think he blames them for why he's dead or missing or whatever.
Yes.
And then he puts the creepy Pennywise bucktooth smile just growing on his face as we see the Music Man still kind of in the background. And then he releases the baby as the creepy bucktooth Pennywise smile grows on his face. And it's the creepy monster one-wigged baby that comes out of the screen. And it's way bigger than it was before.
Yes, it's massive.
And it proceeds to attack the kids.
And mutilate them, not all of them.
Yes. So we see one of them get pulled up in the air and kind of like ripped apart and thrown into the projection window, which Ronnie sees because she's in the projection booth. She's trying to get out and it's locked her in somehow. So she has to break the glass to try to get out. The other kid is running over the seats with his sister, but he gets grabbed and ripped apart. And then it's just the little sister left and she's under the seats. And so is Lily, and Lily reaches out to her. And the thing just snatches the sister, and Ronnie runs into there, grabs Lily. They get out of there. She puts the hammer that she used to get out of the projection room into the door so it can't come out. And Ronnie is like, what happened? What was it? And Lily looks down and she still has the little sister's hand in her hand and just screams. And that is the end of the first episode. So
great stuff. Right? Absolutely great stuff. Perfect way to set up a group of kids as your main kids and then kill
them all. Yes. Kill pretty much all of them.
Kill all apart from two of them. Essentially. The guy the little kid who plays Matty as well, I must say, did a very good job at doing the Bill Skarsgård Pennywise smile, because it's not an easy position to put your mouth into.
No, and it didn't look like they did anything to maybe they did a little bit of something to try to, but it looks like it's all kind of him.
I think that is Bill Skarsgård teaching that child how to do that.
Yes, and then putting the teeth, the similar kind of buck teeth there to just sell it. Yeah, but
now, obviously, Bill Skarsgård hasn't shown up as
which they take their time with revealing him as well, which is great.
I have heard so. I have heard he does not appear until the 5th episode, which is wild, actually.
Yes,
and I think adds to my idea of take your time with everything. This is good. You don't want to shoot your load right at the start, and all this kind of stuff. As nasty as a saying as that is, you don't want to do that. So, it isn't doing that, but it teased us really well with this first episode. I think, great introduction to everybody, great introduction to the military storyline of trying to harness the entity, and Leroy Hanlon and being there, coming in, facing the struggles he's facing. But also the friendship he's facing within the military as well. The general, James Remar is the general. That's casting. Very much respects Leroy, although does obviously fabricate this attack that we discover has been fabricated for a reason. Sure, is it a justifiable reason? No, but there is a respect there. I believe there is a respect there from him. I don't know if it's in the first episode or in the second episode, certainly probably more fleshed out in the second episode, of this, the kind of corrupt police chief as well.
Yes, who also is a connected character. He's presumably the grandfather of Henry Bowers, our kind of villainous bully. I think he's a Bowers, so presumably he's the grandfather of that character.
I see.
So
I see. Yeah. So all these things going on, all these things. Yeah. We can we'll put the episode 2 title card up, although obviously we are jumping here, there, and everywhere slightly in this first little discussion of it. Welcome to Derry. But episode 2 is called The Thing in the Dark. It elevates, I think, the introductory stuff from episode 1 and really properly sets the story going into motion. I think now has more distinctly horror elements to it as well. A particularly effective one, and my favorite one of the season so far, is Ronnie's nightmare of her dead mother.
Yeah. That's terrifying.
Which was very nasty and very, very effectively done and acted. I think she's a great, actor as well, who plays Ronnie, Amanda Christine, as well as
does a great job.
Her and Lily, I think, are the top two really.
Yes, and
plays Lily. Top two really putting the good stuff in there and being better than those from the movie.
Yes, and they will get a lot of stuff to do together, considering what Lily does to essentially Ronnie in this episode. Yes. So a little synopsis here.
She's forced.
Yeah. Yes. But in the end, it doesn't matter anyway, which sucks.
No.
After joining Leroy at their new house in Derry, Charlotte is left with a strange feeling while running errands in town, and Will is teased on his first day of school. Later, Lily faces pressure from all sides about what really happened at the movie theater, and Ronnie worries about her father's fate.
Yes, Leroy's family comes to town.
Yes, so his wife and his son,
Mike Cantlin's father, who's now a child.
Yeah.
And they're uncomfortable to a degree, aren't they? I mean, they're trying. But you see a certain distance, a certain unsuredness, and maybe there's a race element to this as well. I think we can't necessarily look past the race element to it. But there are some people being nice. You don't know how real the niceness is. You don't know how false people are being. Yeah. Is it just this small town? Oh, we'll be polite, but then behind our back we'll put on white hoods and burn crosses.
Exactly. Yes, and I really like the Charlotte character. I think she's great, and we do establish her as a bit of an activist, because I think Leroy mentions to her it's not going to be like the last place with like picket signs or something, like he mentions, like
maybe they've come from deep south.
So he does kind of, and like when she does get there, she talks about having to drive really slow, like to just make sure she's not stopped, or that kind of thing. But he does mention, like, he does kind of gets a little bit snappy with her at the table, because she, I think in the last place they were, she did kind of dabble in some advocacy that kind of stirred up some trouble, kind of thing. And we see her, jump
with him being a military man as well.
And them being black as well, in this very kind of, simmering prejudice of a town. But I love the scene of her going into town, running these errands. She goes to the butcher, which, he seems really nice to her. And then
never go to a butcher in Derry. You don't know what the meat is.
What's going on there? Yes. She looks out to the window and sees this little boy getting bullied and getting beat up. And she's like, "Why is nobody stopping this? Why is nobody doing anything? All these people in the street just walking by like nothing." So she runs out there and tries to help the boy, and they kind of sneer at her, and then they just, the boy runs away and the kids just chase after him and nobody does anything about it. And everyone's just looking at her like she's crazy for wanting to stand up for this kid. So very much, establishing what we saw in the It films of just the adults, just ignoring things, it having this kind of control over the adults and them just being numb or not remembering or that kind of thing.
But the thing is, when you are, when you, this is obviously a supernatural concept, but when you live in a town of evil, which Derry is essentially, it's a town festering in evil and festering in fear and darkness, you would become generationally numb to any sort of pain.
Yes, like all the pages and pages of missing kids, and nobody really,
nobody
cares anymore. Yeah.
And so it is thought of as very unusual. Yes, Charlotte has morally done exactly the right thing by stopping this, but it is unusual in the eyes of the town, and is certainly going to be unusual in the eyes of the It entity. So it is going to sense this one way or another. Oh, somebody different coming in, challenging me, challenging what I'm doing, challenging my hold on this town. I'm going to go after her, which likely is now going to happen because she's far too great a person to not to go after, essentially.
Or is she going to go, or is he going to go after someone she cares about? So,
well, exactly. Metaphorically go after her, maybe not necessarily her. It likes going after children, sure. Yes. Is it going to go after Will? Yes, most likely, even though we know he's going to be fine. But the battle, I think, between particularly Charlotte and eventually Pennywise, most likely, I think is going to be quite intense. There's going to be a lot of shouting. Although Pennywise just shouting as opposed to just smiling and then
and being creepy
and
and running at you crazy.
If there's one thing I'm not looking forward to, it's that silly fast run. Again, I don't like that. It's too silly. It's too CG. It's too nonsense.
Like just frenetically crazy.
Have Bill Skarsgård just do that personally. You don't have to emphasize it with effects. Just have him do. I'm sure he's limber enough to run a bit crazily at somebody and shake his head a bit. That would be more scary to me than
what that. Yeah, I think you'll see that a couple times, but
obviously,
yes.
I don't mind the big mouth. The big mouth and the jaw sort of snapping open and all the teeth and all this kind of stuff. That's fine. Yeah. That we were to expect it in something like this.
Yes.
But when you're being all quickie with it, no.
Yeah, it's a little much. But yes, now we're kind of, the kids have officially been seen as missing, and the last place they were seen was at the movie theater. So implication is now all over Ronnie's dad. And
very unfairly.
Yes. Yeah. And
literally just out of racism.
Pretty much, yeah. And like we even see the cops kind of talking about it, like talking about we need to find these kids, but then also kind of making jokes about it and laughing about it. We see the scene with 3 of the black military men, Leroy and another guy and Dick. And presumably this is a gay bar because, this is like the only place that will accept them. And, I when I was watching the breakdown, they kind of talked about like presumably like this guy saw that the gays were coming here, and even though he's not gay or like advocates for that, he was like, it's business, so he just kind of let them come in. So presumably the only place these black guys would be safe to go in town would be this bar. So the police chief goes in there and he's getting a lot of pressure from the locals, like, we gotta, you got to go after, I think his name's Hank Grogan. You got to go after him. He's the guy who, our kids went missing at his place. And he's like, well, he has an alibi and like, we don't have enough evidence. Like he's actually trying to kind of do police work, but then he's getting enough pressure that he's like, well, okay, I guess I'll, too much pressure. Let's just, pin it on him kind of thing. So
it's like the town needs someone to blame and he's the easiest choice.
Yes. And then we kind of get some rudeness to the guys, like, the black men sitting there, and they kind of get some jeers and stares once the police chief and the other men around him kind of, start paying attention to them.
And Dick being the most sensitive to these little things as well.
Yeah, kind of knows
it's time to leave.
To go. So they leave and they even go back to base, and like one of the guys kind of checking them in doesn't really believe that they should have these special privileges. But Dick is able to kind of flash his pass and go through, and then they're like, oh. Which we do see Dick ultimately.
Damn, Dick, what have they got you doing to get all these special privileges? And Dick's just like, oh, I can't tell you anything.
And they're all a little bit drunk, and so we see Dick hung over the next day, which will kind of be a little bit of a thing, because when you are forced to kind of see as much horrific death and things as he does, you might need something to kind of numb that for yourself a little bit. So
I don't think there was, if I'm remembering somewhat correctly, there's a certain, I don't think it's necessary. Is it a drinking problem necessarily? Why do I get the impression that I knew Dick Halloran liked to drink? Is what I'm trying to kind of figure out.
I don't know if that was
an element of that in The Shine.
I don't know if that was an established thing. I don't know. Maybe Dr. Sleep kind of alludes to it more, when we see
possibly.
Why can't I remember his name?
Callum.
No, the kid, Danny. When we see grown-up Danny dealing with alcoholism, I don't know if there's scenes with Carl Lumley's version, maybe, connecting with him over that and helping him through that, because, he understands that kind of. So I don't remember if that was kind of maybe something that was alluded to or revealed in Dr. Sleep and that version of Dick Halloran. But
I don't know. Maybe it's the Scatman Crothers character that I'm thinking of. I don't know.
That you're thinking, yes, but clearly,
I can just for some reason have an image in my head of Scatman Crothers as Dick Halloran, like swigging from a hip flask, and I don't know why I have that image. So I don't know. Maybe I'm shining at the moment.
Yeah, maybe you're just seeing it. But yeah, clearly he is finding. So this is just kind of an allusion to his coping mechanism with all the things that he is kind of mentally dealing with. So we see him kind of hungover, getting some pressure to see something, from the higher ups. And then we get kind of this fun little jump cut of him puking over a balcony, turning into like whatever slop gets put on Lily's lunch tray at school.
you call it a fun jump cut. I visibly gasped. It was horrible. I did not like that. Very well.
I would have rather seen. Yes, I would have rather seen that than the barf. So, we see Margie again, really trying to get in with these cool girls. Lily, after everything she's seen, and kind of just panicked about like what's gonna happen. Decides not to sit with Margie, sits by herself. Ronnie is also forced to go back to school because she's been out of school since everything happened, and everyone's looking at her and kind of blaming her. So her and Lily are kind of in the same place. And, Ronnie and Lily kind of talk, and there's kind of she's trying to get this understanding of like, people are questioning my father. Can you just go and say what you saw? And back me up, so my father will not be implicated. And Lily is just really scared that if she says she saw some crazy stuff, they're going to send her back to Juniper Hill, and she doesn't want to go there. But she tells Ronnie that she'll say what she saw or whatever. But we do end up seeing her. Yes, exactly. And so we see her grocery shopping later in the episode, and this is a really kind of creepy scene that plays into a lot of like stuff that I love they did in the It movie, when I think one of the kids, I can't remember which one, Ben, he's in the library and we see just this creepy old lady kind of stop and she's behind him staring and people kind of
Yeah.
just stop and staring and stuff like that. So we
It's
get a lot of
very
this
good
here.
setup. This grocery shop scene is a very, very good setup.
Yes.
Labyrinthine aisles and just seemingly
Yes.
endless
Closing
aisles,
her in.
endless dead ends.
Mhm. People just
Yes,
popping up
closing her
creepily,
in.
smiling behind her, all of that
Exactly.
kind of stuff. Yeah, great. And that's when we get the pickle dad, where all the jars
Yeah.
are, one of the turns into her father's face, and then all the jars we see a foot and a hand and all these body parts growing in the pickle jars, and they all start dropping and turn into this pickle dad that just comes after her.
And that's
And
where it gets silly, because right up until that point, the whole setup, even the body parts within the pickle jars is great. The face within the pickle jar is great. And then when it becomes some sort of tentacled being, it's just a little bit
It's a little weird.
too much.
Yes. And so then the grocery store person finds her in the aisle, pickle jars broken all around her, her kind of screaming and making a thing of it.
Yeah.
And so she's looking kind of crazy. So she's talking to
Big
the
time.
police chief and he's like, so, you said you saw some weird things. I think we're going to have to send you back to Juniper Hill. And she's like, no, please, don't send me back there. And he's like,
Terrified, please
well,
don't send me back there.
if you say, that you think Hank Grogan did something to these kids, then maybe we won't send you there. So he's trying to kind of get her to implicate him, so at least he has something to go off of, so that he can appease the men of the town and go after Hank.
And she doesn't. Lily doesn't want to do that, but he frames it in a certain way. I think he frames it in a way of, can you be absolutely sure that it wasn't
him?
Grogan? And she says no, and that's enough for the police to go, well, beyond reasonable doubt and all this kind of stuff. Let's go.
Yes, but ultimately I think her having this incident with the pickles and all of that, ultimately they still end up sending her to Juniper Hill. So her implicating Ronnie's father doesn't do anything, and now Ronnie's pissed because now they've come for her father and take him away. So
I mean, Ronnie storms to Lily's house before Lily's taken her back away and confronts her, and rightly so, although Lily's mother doesn't exactly let
because she's kind of no. So now this whole situation is kind of blowing up even bigger with these kids, and it's not looking good. Then we meet Will, and he's going to school, and
Will's nice.
He makes friends with this kid Rich, who's in the band. And Rich seemingly has this crush on Margie. We get this cute little scene of him just like staring at her, slow motion walking down the hall.
And I think we kind of assume that at the beginning he's staring at the head popular girl.
No, he's staring at goofy glasses Margie. He has a crush on her, which is really cute, and Richie's really cute. He's this cute little band kid. I think he's I don't know, is he like Cuban or something? I think. And so we established that, and he's making friends with Will, who's eating his lunch in the hallway, and then he's like, oh, you better run, and Will's like, what? And it's some kid throws a stink bomb that blows up on Will tries to run away, and he runs into this teacher who already didn't like him because he was late getting to his first class, and the teacher tries to scold him about time, and he says something about like, oh, you mean like
he's a science nerd as well.
Yes,
he's a science nerd.
So the teacher doesn't like him already, and so she puts him in detention. Ronnie gets put into detention because when she finds out that Lily has implicated her father, she yells at her, or I think Lily is hesitant to like commit to saying I will say what really happened. And so Ronnie yells at her and she cusses, and so she gets put into detention. So now Ronnie and Will are in detention together, and she's telling him how much he stinks because of the stink bomb. And he's like, well, the ingredients in the stink bomb are elements that you find in certain, planets or stars or whatever. So I guess you could just say I'm covered in stardust. And he says it in the sweetest way that you're just like, I want to protect this kid at all costs. And it's like, so really sweet. You really just fall in love with this kid when he says that.
He's a lovely kid. I think obviously we were teasing the setup of the group of kids to take on the identity of the season. We are now establishing exactly
a new
going to be
a new set of kids. Yes. So I love kind of this getting to know him, introducing another kid in Rich, and Lily and her whole thing, and Ronnie and that whole situation. So
it's dark. Well, there's a darkness, there's a realistic darkness to a lot of what's going on as well. Like we said, the racism angles of or the racism storylines that are going on, the absolute parental trauma that several characters
well, because the scene you mentioned with Ronnie, where she's just in bed and she wakes up and she's all of a sudden in a womb and she can't get out, and she busts out of the womb, and then the bed turns into her mother, and it's her mother kind of in her wedding outfit, which just speaks to, how far Pennywise's power or its power reaches, because he's using this image of Ronnie's mother because there's the only picture that he can, have access to of Ronnie's mother is the wedding photo that is in the hallway. So that's why she looks like that. And she is stuck to this umbilical cord, and it's trying to suck her in, and the mother's blaming her, I died because of you, because I gave birth to you.
You ripped me open and you killed me and all this kind of stuff. It's very nasty. But also, thankfully, actually looks really good as well as an effect. Not like the pickle one. This looks really good.
Ronnie's covered in like slime, and the umbilical cord is attached to her. It's trying to suck her in. The mother's like stomach is like these teeth chomping to suck her back in. It's terrifying.
Like
and yes, preying on her parent kind of fear, just like Lily's parenting kind of fear, and that kind of thing. So it's probably a way better, I think, executed scare scene than Lily's, for sure.
Definitely. But it's not easy with its fear. This. I think there's something about the It movie that tried to be traumatic, but was trying to also appease mass audiences. No, you can be a bit more adventurous in television, and this is treating it, I think, in the better way. And I'm sure if I was to read the book of it is this level of dark, or if not worse, if not more horrific, which is kind of what you want in order for it to be as effective as it needs to be, as it wants to be. You need to explore, if you're feasting on trauma, if you are it and you are feasting on parental trauma, you are feasting on racist trauma, you are feasting on all this kind of stuff, you need to depict those as horrific as they actually are for those characters. In order for it to make sense as to why it is latching onto all that as the embodiment of fear. So it's doing that, this show, already. And I like that. I sense that it's only going to get better from here as well as a show, and more intense.
We're going to...
Interesting.
It's building out the world. It's building out the world really well with this really cool interconnectivity to things that we might know, and building that stuff out a little bit. I think it's only going to get kind of more creepy and scary as we build to seeing Pennywise as well. I think, just to touch on the little bit of the army stuff, we do learn that it was all kind of a staged thing, because James Remar's character wanted to test him for fear and see, like, if what would scare him, because we need someone who is fearless to be a part of kind of what we're gonna be delving into, and so Leroy really passed that aspect, and he's
but the
able to be
interesting thing here,
shown.
it's not just James Remar, General James Remar, needing somebody
Yeah.
fearless. It's needing
Yeah.
somebody who physically does not have fear within them.
Yeah.
It's not just this, I'm fearless, I'm brave, I
Yeah,
have courage
no, he
kind of thing.
yes, because they're, like, looking into, like, how your amygdala, I think,
Yeah,
reacts to fear and that whole kinda
and
deeper.
Leroy has a bullet injury from the Korean War, I think it was explained as to be,
Yeah,
where he was actually shot in the head, and there's
yeah,
like a bullet lodged in there, but he's fine. And
yeah,
I mean, how lucky is that, first and foremost? But it's done
yeah.
something to his brain where he literally does not
Does not be
produce fear
you yeah,
anymore.
yes,
So
so he's the
he is
perfect guy
literally
to
a
kind
man
of
without fear.
yes. So he is brought in to kind of to see what they're actually doing. We see a sign that's like ironworks, because I think that's one of the big disasters, a big ironworks fire, something
Mm,
that happened. We see a old car that's kind of shot up. There's like a big Bradley
yeah.
gang, I think, shootout, which we do see in this opening. So, I'll ask your thoughts after
Mm,
we kind of talk about this on the opening, because that was kind of a big popular part of this show, the song getting stuck in everybody's head. Um,
yes.
but, we see this car from the Bradley gang shootout. We see these old baseball T-shirts. I'm not sure what that is alluding to. Um, but we're
Maybe even
setting up
older.
kind of
Baseball's been around for a long
yeah.
time.
Yeah, so we're setting up these past instances that I think we're gonna see in the season 2 and then in the season 3 as we go back in time.
Yeah,
Um, so them kind of uncovering these things from these past incidences and their connection to this darker entity that is in the town that they're kind of
yeah,
exploring, and Leroy has now been brought into that as well. So,
yeah.
yeah.
I just find it fun how he's literally a man without fear. Like, is he
Mhm.
Daredevil?
Daredevil, right? Yeah.
It's just funny to me.
Yes.
But it makes sense. We are literally pitting the embodiment of fear, something that feasts on nothing but fear, that literally lives off of fear
Mhm.
and cannot live off anything else in it,
Yeah.
against somebody literally who cannot produce fear. It's a
Yeah.
great rock meet hard place kind of situation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or not rock meet hard place, immovable object meets unstoppable force kind
Mhm.
of place.
Yeah. Yes.
Um, that we're in here, and that battle is going to be great. And how Leroy then, through Will, most likely, obviously gets involved in
Involved in all of
Kid's
this.
storyline, as
Yeah.
well as his own with Dick and everybody else, is going to be very, very interesting. And they obviously, at this archaeological dig, uncover this car at the end of the episode, don't they? That's full of nastiness.
Yes. And then I think we do, when Charlotte is out running errands, we do see her go to that secondhand shop where Mike, or not Mike, uh Bill got his bike in the movie. So
Okay.
and I think it's owned by Native American people, and those people are really
Yes.
nice to her and kind of give her a cue into how to navigate the town. And they will
Yeah.
come back later, because they are, the ritual of
Okay.
Chud is kind of, based on
Um,
those kinds of aspects. So they
I
will
see.
play a factor into, what they're trying to do to mitigate kind of what is happening as well. So
I
just
see. I see.
introducing them with Charlotte's character kind of going into their shop, to
I
kind of,
see.
get that touchstone. But yes, second episode is where we do get the opening, the really
Mm.
kind of the exceedingly creepy opening with this like light cheery song, which works perfectly for the juxtaposition of kind of sweet Americana with dark kind of underlying aspects kind of song
I
that
mean,
just has this creepy feel. Um,
it
it's
does.
earworm of a song.
You've been singing it to me for the last sort of month, so
Yes.
I'm well aware of it. It's good though. It's a perfect, yeah. It's perfect tonally for
Yeah.
which is what this show is. It is this small town. Oh, doesn't it seem nice? Oh, actually,
Yeah.
no. It's absolutely horrific. That's what this
Yeah.
song seems like. Oh, it's nice.
Yeah.
But you actually listen to
Really
it.
is something special. I
There
really
is
is something rare. Yeah.
there is something uncomfortably creepy about it, and you can't quite put your finger on it because there's nothing
Yeah.
literally creepy about it. There's nothing
No, but
outwardly
there's even, like, a line, like, "The more I believe I'm happy, the more, like, it'll be so." So it's like, forcing yourself, forcing the
yeah,
smile on your face, to
yeah.
be happy is
That
kind of
it's
the vibe of the town as well. So there are some
and
lyrics
that's
in
all
there
you
that
need.
could be kind of interpreted kind of creepily. Yeah.
That is absolutely all you need, just that little tiny bit, and it works.
Yes, yes, and I
Um,
love how they kind of sneak even, allude to Pennywise in the opening kind of slides of
mm,
these of what's happening, like, we see a
yeah,
kid looking at him and just see his gloved hand on the projector, we see his glowing eyes in the sewer and his, like, tentacles coming out with a lollipop to some kid, like,
yes.
those kinda it's really it
No,
just adds to
no
the
doubt there'll
story.
be a balloon at some point coming, up
Oh,
or something.
yeah, yes. There might be
He
some
loves a red
you just
balloon.
haven't. Yes, which we see in the opening as well, I think when it's like we're at the Neibolt house, that family in front of the Neibolt house, and this kid's kind of, like,
Yes,
looking creepy behind him,
yes,
and there's a big explosion, and, like, there is a balloon in that explosion, so,
yes.
yeah, so just watch it each time, and kinda maybe you'll notice some different
Okay,
things you didn't see each time, but and just,
okay.
like, the song's just like an earworm of a bop that, like, everyone's been kind of in
It
love
is.
with, so
It is.
yeah.
No,
So,
great,
yeah.
great show so far. I'm thoroughly looking forward to continuing investigating it. Welcome to
Yay.
Derry, Jeannine. Obviously, it's not the only show we have on the It's Wonderful podcast feed. It is alternating at the moment every week. On a Monday, we're diving into Doctor Who, which is back for series 2 as we start the 10th Doctor era, or have started the 10th
Yes.
Doctor era, of course. Well,
You're in it.
well into
Yeah.
that now. Very exciting things over there. David Lynch is our March series over on Morgan Hasn't Seen. I hope you have been listening to that. That's been exceptional.
Yeah.
And Ida Lupino Directs is our main show series celebrating the great old Hollywood filmmaker that was Ida Lupino. We love her. She's great.
Yeah.
On the main show, as you know, we love celebrating old movies the most here on It's a Wonderful podcast. That is the name of the game. You can find this show and all the others on the It's a Wonderful podcast feed on all major podcast platforms, of course. Subscribe, ding your notification bell if you are watching today's episode of Investigating It. Welcome to Derry on the YouTube channel. And for all our other fun video stuff as well. You can find things scrolling down at the bottom of the screen. If you want to join us on Patreon or support us in donating or anything like that, you can find links in the description to go ahead and do that. Or, of course, just find us on and across all the social medias on the app formerly known as Twitter, and on Blue Sky at It's a Wonderful One. Find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at the Purple Dawn, with the 3 instead of the E in there because, Jeannine,
3 is the magic number.
On Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at the Purple Dawn. All your shining in honor of Dick Halloran is where?
Yes. You can find me Jeannine _ on Twitter, Jeannine on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. And if you want to get any merch for any of our shows, just check the description for the link or search G9 Design on tpublic.com.
Well, of course, find us on all major podcast platforms. Leave your comments on Spotify, rate, review, like, share, all the good stuff everywhere you are. And it does only leave one thing left to do, Jeannine, of course. I mean, he's not showed up yet, is he? I mean, I really going to have to wait until episode 5.
And my Pennywise always ends up sounding like Yoda, so I don't know if
I mean, I kind of get it.
I might need the time to practice.
I kind of get it. It's not a million miles away. Is there any good impression? Do an impression of Scatman Crothers as Dick Halloran for me instead of Chris Chalk, who is great in this show, by the way.
Yeah,
Chris
he's great.
Chalk, even already.
Yes.
And I think he's going to get even more to do.
Oh, yes, definitely.
But Scatman's got that distinct voice, hasn't he?
3, 2, 1.
Shiny. Bye.
Bye.